Yvette Felarca's preliminary trial starts. Yvette Felarca's preliminary trial started on Thursday, December 6, and let's look at this article by the Davis Vanguard, December 7, 2018 by David Greenwald, headlined, Heavy-Duty Legal Wrangling Featured in the 2016 State Capitol Neo-Nazi Riot Prelim. And it reads, Sacramento, the long anticipated preliminary trial of 3 anti-fascists for their alleged part in a June 2016 melee at the state capitol involving neo-Nazi groups began in Sacramento County Superior Court here Thursday, but didn't get close to finishing after more than 2 hours of heavy-duty legal wrangling. Although scheduled to start and finish Thursday, the preliminary trial will continue until December 18th. Always delays with these people. Judge Stacy Boulware Uri, if I'm saying that correctly, found herself Thursday more like a kindergarten cop. Forced to rule on scores of objections, virtually all of them granted, from the defense team of Ronald Cruz, Shanta Driver, cult leader, Linda Parsi, Mark Rachel, if I'm saying that correctly, representing defendants Yvette Felarca, actually Yvonne Capistrano Felarca is her real name, Michael Williams, and Porfirio Paz. By the way, folks, see our video that should be out in a day or two about Shanta Driver's partner there, Eileen Sheff, and her connections to NAMBLA and pedophiles and whatnot. The article continues, all defendants are charged with a myriad of felonies. Deputy District Paris Coleman was on defense, although he is the prosecutor, much of the afternoon, and on the receiving end of the seemingly never-ending objections to his attempts to enter photographs and video into evidence and elicit testimony from California Highway Patrol Officer Donovan Ayers. I can only imagine what it's like in that courtroom. It's probably just like being trying to block people from speaking or just walking down the sidewalk sometimes. I can only imagine. Objection. Every 2 seconds. Objection. The article continues, Ayers was on the roof of the state capitol building the day of the riot because, as he testified, the potential for violence between counter-protesters and neo-Nazi groups, officially the Traditionalist Workers' Party, secured a permit, but many social justice groups were expected to counter-protest. Quote, there were a dozen or so groups, occupied types, with communist or socialist banners, unquote, testified Ayers, quickly labeling the left-leaning groups, although he failed to label neo-Nazi and white power groups as such throughout his testimony. One of the victims even gave the Nazi salute repeatedly in videos shown to the court. But his testimony, as well as the photos and video that the DDA Coleman tried to enter as evidence, set off rounds of objections by defense lawyers. The judge upheld most of the objections, which characterized his comments as, quote, opinion, hearsay, without foundation, unquote, because Ayers admitted he really couldn't see much of the protest from his high Capitol perch. The DDA attempted to enter a photograph with a Capitol reading, quote, Felarca hitting, unquote, a neo-Nazi. Defense lawyer Parisi objected, noting that was not what was depicted in the photo. The judge agreed. Rachel objected that one video shown, quote, could have been edited because, unquote, suggested Rachel. The video came from, quote, YouTube, the internet, social media, unquote. Defense also objected to another video showing protesters clashing on the south side steps of the Capitol. After again admitting he could not see the protests from his vantage point, Ayers eventually identified the shooter of the video as a Capitol employee on break who shot the video with her cell phone. The judge overruled defense objections and allowed the video to be shown. Driver, even before the proceedings began, told a rally outside the courtroom. They always have to bring a mob with them. Told a rally outside the courtroom that the 3 defendants were the victims of a, quote, conspiracy, unquote, between the Sacramento County District Attorney. It's always a conspiracy with these people. It's a Nazi conspiracy. The CHP against, quote, well-known civil rights activists trying to stop the Donald Trump dictatorial movement from steamrolling civil rights, unquote, in the U.S.
You're censoring people. How the fuck can you say civil rights activists while trying to censor people?
Yeah.
You're
Doublespeak.
A piece of shit, Shanta.
Yeah. Pedophile-loving, NAMBLA-loving Shanta Driver. Quote, the CHP did nothing at the Capitol in 2016 to stop fascists armed and looking for a fight. Not one was arrested after at least 8 stabbings. The CHP instead focused on anti-fascists counter-demonstrators, unquote. And according to Attorney Cruz, that's Ronald Cruz, the guy you see in this video here, quote, although the CHP identified every individual who had knives that day, all of whom were fascists, the CHP concluded no single one of them was quote-unquote solely responsible for stabbing any one anti-racist protesters. Through this sleight of hand, the CHP and district attorney are protecting the fascists, unquote. Driver noted that the CHP had recommended charging about 100 identified counter-protesters with 576 crimes, even though she claimed quote-unquote fascists were armed and were responsible for the stabbings. Only one fascist participant had been arrested and faces trial in January. Quote, Nigel Walker, a self-proclaimed fascist, looked to create a riot and had to know that the police would do nothing to him. Even if he was caught doing something wrong, he knew he wouldn't face charges, unquote, she alleged. Quote, a comprehensive review of CHP reports reveals that the CHP recommended 576 criminal charges against 100 anti-fascist protesters and recommended only 5 criminal charges against 5 fascists, unquote. A 177-page motion to dismiss states, adding, quote, none of these charges prosecute the fascists for stabbing people on June 26, 2016. In contrast, the CHP has 100 narratives regarding anti-racist protesters and makes requests that the district attorney prosecute all 100 of them, recommending 576 criminal charges against them. Quote, the motion presents irrefutable quantitative and comparative evidence of the California Highway Patrol and district attorney sheltering the fascists and targeting anti-racist protesters for criminal prosecution, unquote, said Attorney Cruz. Quote, the arrests of Yvette Felarca, Porfirio Paz, and Michael Williams emboldened the fascists and fell weeks before Charlottesville and the murder of Heather Heyer, and there has been a surge of white racist violence. So they always have to look, the trial is about the trial, guys, and Shant Driver and yes, this whole legal team, they try to say, whoa, Trump's out there, and fascism is out there, and Charlottesville happened, and look, it doesn't change the facts of this case from June 2016, okay? Before Trump was elected, long before Charlottesville. Anyway, Cruz continues, protesting against Donald Trump and the violent fascists who have been emboldened by him to murder innocent people is not a crime, it is a necessity. Now, I have to pause here. He's got to know that Donald Trump was not elected until after that incident in Sacramento, right? I mean,
liars often forget their lives. And timelines.
I just don't understand. Like, I would love to see the judge's face when he said that. I mean, come on. I'm dumbfounded by. I mean, yeah, wow. Okay, he continues. The Sacramento District Attorney political witch hunt must end now, unquote, he said. Quote, the CHP considered a crime simply for being at a protest against fascists, unquote, Cruz said. Quote, one CHP report recommends charging a protester of, quote-unquote, riot for holding a banner saying, quote-unquote, anti-fascism and coordinating hospital support for the people who were nearly killed by fascists, unquote. The preliminary hearing continues December 18th, 9 a.m. in Department 18.
I love this. The protesters that were nearly killed by violent fascists. Well, had you not been there with weapons attacking them, I'm gonna say no one would have gotten hurt that day.
Yeah.
But you chose to show up as a fucking mob with sticks, stones, pepper spray, blow horns, bats, knives, and pretty much anything else you could fucking carry, and attack people.
Yeah.
In a public park.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. I will try to keep you updated on what happens on December 18th. What do you think about this, folks? Leave us a comment below. Peace, love, freedom, equality, give me liberty, or give me death.